Let me tell you something about strength that nobody talks about. There's a difference between choosing to be strong and having no other choice. One builds character, the other breaks children. You're 8 years old, standing in the hallway while your parents scream behind closed doors. Or maybe you're 10, watching your mother cry into her hands, her body shaking with sobs she thinks you can't hear. Or maybe you're 6, and someone just told you that everything's going to be okay, and you can already feel the weight of that lie settling into your bones. And in that moment, something shifts. Something ancient and instinctive clicks inside your small mind, a silent understanding that changes everything. If I don't hold it together, everything falls apart. This is where childhood ends, not with a ceremony, not with permission, but with necessity. With survival, you become strong not because you want to, but because someone has to be, and there's no one else. So what happens to a child who never got to be weak, who learned that tears were luxuries they couldn't afford, who carried burdens too heavy for their small shoulders because no one else would? Here's what most people don't understand about children who had to stay strong. They didn't choose resilience. Resilience chose them, or rather, circumstances forced it upon them and called it a gift. You know this child, maybe you were this child. They're the ones who smile when they're breaking, who say I'm fine with a voice that could shatter glass, who comfort others while their own world is collapsing. They become emotional thermostats, constantly regulating everyone else's temperature while ignoring their own, and the world praises them for it. You're so mature, you're so responsible, you're so strong for your age, but no one ever stops to ask the question that matters most. At what cost? Because strength, when it's forced, isn't strength at all. It's survival dressed up as virtue. It's a child learning that their needs don't matter, that their pain isn't valid, that love is conditional on how well they can hold everything together. Psychologists have a term for this: parentification. It's when a child becomes the caregiver instead of being cared for, when they take on emotional responsibilities that should never belong to someone their age, and it rewires everything. Let's talk about what happens in the brain of a child who has to stay strong. When you're constantly put in charge of emotional regulation, either your own or others, it creates something called hypervigilance. Your nervous system stays on high alert, always scanning, always watching, always ready for the next crisis. You learn to read a room before you enter it. You learn to detect mood shifts in the angle of someone's shoulders. You learn that safety isn't something you have, it's something you maintain through constant vigilance. This isn't maturity. This is trauma disguised as competence. Because here's what happens. Your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for detecting threats, becomes overactive. It never rests. Even in safe moments, it's looking for danger. Even in calm, it's bracing for the storm. You walk on eggshells in empty rooms. You apologize for things you didn't do. You manage emotions that aren't yours to manage. And slowly, without even realizing it, you disappear. Not physically, but psychologically. The real you, the one with needs and wants and feelings, gets buried beneath the version that performs well, the version that stays strong, the version that never breaks. But here's the tragedy that no one talks about. You learn that love is a transaction. You give peace, and maybe they'll give you safety. You suppress your needs, and maybe they won't leave. You stay strong, and maybe they won't fall apart. So you become the good child, the quiet achiever, the therapist friend, the one who never asks for anything. And you wear that identity so convincingly that even you forget it's a mask. But deep down, something hurts, something aches, because the inner child you buried didn't die. They're still in there, screaming silently. Why didn't anyone protect me? Why did I have to be the strong one? Why wasn't I allowed to be a child? And those questions echo through your entire life. As you grow older, the symptoms become more complex, more subtle, more devastating. You might become refusing help, pushing people away, building walls so high that even you can't see over them, because asking for support feels like admitting weakness, and weakness was never safe. You might feel numb during happy moments. Joy feels unfamiliar, foreign, almost dangerous. Because when your childhood trained you to expect crisis, peace feels like the calm before the storm. You might struggle to rest, to sit still, to do nothing, because productivity is the only way you've ever felt worthy. Being useful is the only way you've ever felt loved. And worst of all, you might not even realize you're still stuck in survival mode. Because when dysfunction is normalized early, your nervous system accepts chaos as baseline. Stillness feels wrong, peace feels suspicious, love feels like a debt you'll eventually have to repay. This is the psychology of a child forced to stay strong. It's not just sadness, it's not just resilience. It's a complex trauma that reshapes how you view the world. and more importantly, how you view yourself. So why would any child willingly take on that role? The answer is both simple and heartbreaking. Because children will do anything for attachment, even abandon themselves. The choice is never conscious. It's biological. It's instinctive. In the absence of safety, the child sacrifices authenticity for belonging. You learn that your real self, the one with needs and fears and vulnerabilities, isn't acceptable. So you create a version that's strong, capable, unbreakable, and that's not weakness. That's intelligence. That's the desperate creativity of a child, trying to survive. But here's what saved you, then imprisons you now, because you're not that child anymore. You're an adult with resources, with choices, with the power to leave situations that don't serve you. But your nervous system doesn't know that. It's still running the old program, still trying to keep you safe in ways that are now keeping you stuck. So many of us are walking around as high-functioning adults with deeply neglected inner children pulling the strings. We overachieve to earn love. We stay silent to avoid abandonment. We take care of everyone but secretly wish someone would just ask if we're okay. And that fantasy, that someone will notice you're not as strong as you pretend to be, that maybe, just maybe, you'll finally get to fall apart and be held, that is the unmet need. Not of your adult self, but of the child who never got to be a child. The child who had to wipe their own tears, who had to soothe their own fears, who had to be their own parent when they needed one most. Here's where it gets really difficult. The first step to healing isn't fixing, it's witnessing. Because until you validate what happened, you'll keep gaslighting yourself. It wasn't that bad. Other people had it worse. I turned out fine, but fine is a performance too. And deep down, you know it. You know that you're tired, bond-tired, soul-tired. Tired from decades of holding everything together. Tired from pretending you don't need what you desperately need. Tired from being strong when all you wanted was to be soft. So what happens to that child when they grow up? They become adults who never feel safe, even in calm rooms. They become lovers who can't trust softness. They become givers who can't receive. They become the kind of people who apologize for crying, flinch at compliments, and confuse exhaustion with success. This is the cost of having to stay strong. Because if your childhood trained you to be strong at the expense of being vulnerable, to be quiet instead of honest, to fix others while ignoring your own fractures, then what kind of adulthood do you inherit? You inherit a life where you're always holding your breath, waiting for permission to finally fall apart. But here's the truth. No one's coming to rescue the child you buried. You are the one who must go back. You are the one who must hold their hand. You are the one who must say what no one else ever said. You didn't deserve that. You were just a child. You get to rest now. This is the beginning of real healing. Not fixing, not performing, not bypassing the pain with fake positivity, but turning toward the abandoned parts of yourself and saying, I see you now, I hear you now, and I'm not leaving. That is the reparenting process. And it's brutal, because it asks you to feel the grief you never had time to feel. It asks you to sit with the rage, the sorrow, the unmet needs, to weep for the birthdays where no one showed up, to mourn the innocence you lost while protecting people who should have protected you, to acknowledge the weight you carried that should never have been yours. But that grief, it's not weakness. It's proof that you're healing, because what was once frozen is finally thawing. What was once buried is finally surfacing. What was once silenced is finally speaking. Now let's talk about how this survival pattern shows up in adulthood. Subtly, tragically, often invisibly, you might become the therapist in all your friendships, but never let anyone truly see you. You might be praised for your independence when deep down, you're terrified of being a burden. You might be in relationships where you're always fixing, always managing, always explaining, and wondering why you feel resentful when no one asked you to do any of it. You might struggle with boundaries, because saying no still feels like betrayal, like abandonment, like the thing that will make everyone leave. These are not personality traits, they are coping strategies, learned, conditioned, and the good news, unlearnable, but only when you stop idolizing your strength and start honoring your wounds. One of the most powerful things you can do is ask your inner child, what did I need back then that I never got? And the answers might break you. I needed someone to tell me it wasn't my fault. I needed someone to ask how I was doing. I needed to play, to rest, to laugh without fear. I needed to be a child. And slowly, very slowly, you begin to give those things to yourself, not to fix your past, but to stop reliving it. This is how you stop seeking parents in your partners. This is how you stop mistaking anxiety for intuition. This is how you stop running from the child you were and the self you're becoming. Carl Jung once said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. but shadow work demands that we face it. All of it. The neglected, the ashamed, the scared, the angry, the child who had to stay strong when they should have been allowed to break, because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, before survival rewired you, before strength became your prison. And here's what most people don't realize. The child who had to stay strong often feels the most intensely. They didn't become strong because they felt less. They became strong because they felt too much and had nowhere safe to put it. So they learned to compress it, to contain it, to carry it silently. And that capacity for feeling didn't disappear. It just went underground. If you're someone who had to stay strong as a child, I want you to know something. Your strength was never the problem. The problem was that you had no choice. But now you do. You can choose softness. You can choose to rest. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's emotions and start honoring your own. And no, it won't happen overnight. There will be days you feel like a child again. Scared, small, overwhelmed. Good. That's the point. Let that child come home. Let them cry. Let them rage. Let them finally be seen. Because you're not broken. You're becoming whole. And maybe for the first time, you're finally growing up the right way. Not through pressure, not through fear, but through truth. The truth is, you were never supposed to carry that weight. You were never supposed to be the strong one. You were supposed to be protected, not protective. Held, not holding. And somewhere along the way, someone failed you. Not because you weren't enough, but because they weren't capable. Their brokenness became your burden. Their inability to cope became your responsibility, and that wasn't fair. It wasn't right, and it wasn't your fault. So here's the invitation. You don't have to be strong anymore. Not in that way. Not in the way that costs you your peace. Not in the way that means you can never fall apart. Real strength isn't the absence of weakness. Real strength is allowing yourself to be weak in the presence of people who won't weaponize it. Real strength is saying, I'm not okay, and trusting that you'll survive the honesty. Real strength is asking for help and believing you deserve to receive it. That's the strength you need now. Not the kind that holds everything together, but the kind that lets things fall apart so they can be rebuilt correctly this time. Because you never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it differently. This time, you get to be soft without it being dangerous. You get to have needs without them being burdens. You get to fall apart without everything collapsing. This time, you get to be held instead of holding. This time, you get to rest instead of performing. This time, you get to finally put down the weight you were never meant to carry. And maybe that's what healing really looks like for the child who had to stay strong. Not becoming stronger, but finally, after all these years, allowing yourself to be weak, to be vulnerable, to be human. Because that child inside you, the one who had to grow up too fast, they don't need you to be strong anymore. They just need you to come back, to acknowledge them, to tell them what no one else ever did. You can rest now. You're safe. You don't have to hold it together anymore. I've got you. And maybe, just maybe, that's when the real strength begins. Not the kind that protects you from breaking, but the kind that helps you heal after you do.